Now, normally on Protaly Talks, I typically cover historical issues. These are issues that have already happened and are not currently unfolding. Now, the problem with that is in America, we are living in a very historically relevant time. In 50, 100, hell, even 25 years from now, people will be studying, literally in a history class or an economics class, even with Trump's new tariffs, they will be studying the time we are living in. Trump's second term, the Biden administration, the COVID crisis, all of these will be things that people will learn about in the future. So I think it is relevant to the premise of this channel, which is just me talking about shit. And it's poorly edited history. Now, today I want to talk about an issue that I personally deal with a lot. Now, I prefer empirical facts, but I do believe emotion has its use when we're talking about facts. So, let me explain the issue. In America, if you're not familiar with American politics, there are two parties that really hold all the power: the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. The Democrats lean left on social and economic issues. The Republicans lean right on social and economic issues. Now, here is my problem. Economically, I believe that governments should not interfere too much with the market, which would mean I would lean right. And when I say lean, I mean lean. I don't go all the way economically. I lean right economically. But socially, I'm very on the left. It's less of a lean, more of a I'm standing. So the issue with that. Now, in other countries, there would be a party for people like me. Except in America, there is not. Heck, in America, even there's not even a minor party that really follows me. It's either all the way one way or all the way the other way. So I would call myself a moderate, a left-leaning moderate. But in America, you're not allowed to be a left-leaning you're not allowed to be a moderate at all. You can't have nuanced issues. Like for me, let's talk about abortion. This video is getting demonetized if I upload this. Let's talk about abortion. It is an issue that I think is complex. I don't think 30 weeks. I think 30 weeks is too high. I think after 30 weeks, the baby is basically a baby at that point. So I don't know the science behind gestation or whatever the term is. I don't know the science behind that. I know a lot of science, but I don't know it's to that point. So I think abortions should be allowed because it's, first off, as a man, not really my place to say. I think fathers should have an opinion, and I think the doctor should be required to ask the father's opinion if the father is... If you can contact the father, I think you should be legally required to. Anyway, I don't know what the law is about that. Maybe it already is a thing. But anyway, I can't have a nuanced opinion about that. Either I'm pro-life or pro-choice. Notice how there's no pro kind of choice or kind of life. So in America, it is extremely difficult to have nuanced opinions. That's why there was a study conducted at some point where they studied the willingness of Democrats and Republicans to go across the aisle and vote with the other side across a certain time span. And right now, we're having one of the highest cases of people not voting with the other side. See, I think, let's give Utah Republicans, for example. Utah Republicans don't tend to vote socially with the rest of the Republican Party. for whatever reason, in Utah, they have different social views of what it means to be a Republican. So they are more likely to cross the aisle. And I forgot where I was going with this. But, yeah, in America, let's say I run for the Republican ticket. And I give any opinion that does not fully endorse the Republican Party line, I then cannot win an election at all. Trump, I am not sure if Trump actually, like, in his opinions, in his heart, I don't know if he believes all the things that the Republican Party stands for. But because he's the president and he's a Republican official, he has to, right? Now, truth be told, honestly, I think he's a piece of shit, but that's neither here nor there. But it's just difficult to live in an America that doesn't function anymore. Right? I love this country. It's my favorite in the world. Our history is fascinating. Our government is one of the most complex and advanced, and it's beautiful. And I love everything about this country. And the fact that the Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, Green Party, Socialists, whatever parties can't work together to make this country a better place to live, right? Like, something can be fundamentally good or bad. Like, it doesn't have to be nuanced. Aiding an American ally shouldn't be an issue, right? Like, I don't know, say Guatemala, a country I don't think we've ever had an issue with since, like, the 50s, when we got rid of their government because communism. But, like, I'm pretty sure it was Guatemala, or it might have been Honduras, one of those two. But, like, say Guatemala is having a famine, right? And say the Republicans are like, oh yes, we should pay for the famine relief. And the Democrats are like, oh no, we shouldn't pay for that famine relief because they don't whatever the fuck. It shouldn't be that shouldn't be the issue. The issue should be there are people in Guatemala starving. We should help them because we can. So it's like Trump ruining our alliances with the rest of the world because he wants isolationism doesn't make sense. In the 30s, when America was all on that isolationism kick, we didn't say, fuck you, Britain. We just didn't get involved in their wars. We didn't get involved in their politics. We didn't give opinions on Britain. You know? Cocaine. So... And it's hard because I dislike Trump and everything that he says, that he stands for. The idea of a demagogue in the White House troubles me. Because he can just ignore, as long as people support Trump, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. He controls our country in a way no one has without us being at war, right? Lincoln had immense control over the country because we were fighting a rebellion. FDR had immense control over our country. Not was Roosevelt. Woodrow Wilson didn't really have that level of control because we weren't at war for super long. But he still had immense control over the press specifically because of the acts that were passed. So I have issues with people having unilateral control over the country. I'm harping on Trump because I have personal beef with him, but I wouldn't want, say, I don't know, fucking, let's go with, I wouldn't want Joe Biden to have unilateral control over the country. I don't want a dictator from any party, regardless of his beliefs. I don't care if a dictator shares the exact same beliefs as me, down to the very opinions and actions. If he's not following the laws, he should not be allowed to do what he is doing. Because our laws are sacred. They should change, but they are sacred. They should change, but they shouldn't change at the drop of a hat. Like, for example, in the Constitution, there is a guarantee that the southern states can retrieve escaped slaves from the North. I think that law was needed at the time to get the South to sign the document, but I don't think that should have stayed static because, you know, like some people like to mention, it's a living, breathing document. It changes over time. Like, France has had to change their constitution a bunch because theirs isn't as flexible as ours is, or at least their interpretation of it can't be flexible because they don't have the groundwork for that. So we have the Supreme Court in the United States. So when our opinions as a society change, so must the laws that govern those opinions as a society. Murder will almost certainly always be bad, but women voting might not always be bad. Or they thought it would be, but it wasn't. They thought it would be a problem and it wasn't. So it's like, the central point of this video is just, it's difficult to have nuanced opinions in a country that is this polarized. And it hurts me to see this country being torn apart by a man who does not give a shit about our traditions, who doesn't give a shit about our culture, and who doesn't give a shit about the government he's in charge of. And he plays to people's beliefs in a way that is sickening. To Christians, he says, oh, the left is trying to destroy your beliefs. Most Democrats are Christian. They just want separation of church and state. And honestly, I think most Republicans want separation of church and state. But because they're not, here's the thing. The loudest and angriest voices are the ones you hear the most. If you are speaking with a moderate tone, you are very calm and precise. You're not going to be heard as loudly as someone shouting from the roofs with fanatical words and inspiring movement. So the loudest and angriest voices are going to be amplified the most. So someone like Donald Trump's opinions will be heard over a random Republican in, let's say, DC. So not all Republicans believe the things that Trump does. Not all Democrats believe the things that Kamala Harris does, or whoever the fuck's in charge of the party. Who cares? But, so honestly, if anyone watches this video and anyone cares, just remember there's nuance, right? Remember, not everyone needs a concrete, unchanging, unflinching opinion. To Christians, you know, the people who believe in the word of Jesus Christ, love thy neighbor. And to, I guess, atheists, believe in the words of the founding fathers. All men are created equal with certain inalienable rights. I don't like what someone is saying doesn't make it wrong necessarily. But yeah, this video is probably getting a bit long for my normal thing, and honestly, I'm a bit tired, so harebrained thoughts, not really super coherent. Yeah. I guess just hate the Dutch.